with the PowerPoint, Maggie? What are we going to do?
I can bring it up anytime. Would you like me to bring it up now?
When you bring it up, do I lose everyone's face? Or what happens then?
Well, we should be all on the side still. Hang on, here we go.
Oh, really? I didn't think so.
No?
Yeah, yeah, that's
No,
okay.
Yeah, you're all on the
Okay.
right-hand side on mine.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can scroll
I do?
down and see all of us.
Just a second, I'm going to put this into PowerPoint slideshow view here. From beginning. How's that, Frank? You can actually move. I'm going to move all you guys over to the left here, so you're not in my screen, my vision there. There we go.
So I see 4 of you. Okay, I got to scroll down there to see the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can anybody see if the record button is on? I want to record this for Michelle because she's
Yes, yes.
Recording.
okay. Good. She's at Humans Being More in Winnipeg.
All right, are we ready to rock and roll?
Yep.
I'm ready to rock and roll.
And hoochie cooch.
We are rocking and rolling. Look at that basement. Whoa.
I'm going to apologize in advance. I've got a little bit of a cold and a runny nose, so I may be interrupted here intermittently with some coughing. My intention is for this to be gone before today is over.
Good.
Take immunity.
Uh-huh.
I'm surprised it's taking you this long to say that, Sherry.
I know, right?
I said that to you yesterday, and you didn't say anything.
You did. I know. What's wrong with me? I didn't even catch the cue. But I got it today. Take immunity.
Lots of it.
Lots of it.
All right. Well,
You have to take it before you get sick.
This is true.
today is going to be an advanced class. And whatever you need to do to get yourself in that place of learning, that the deep breathing, the concentration, to clear stuff in front of you, to clear your mind, I encourage you to open your mind as wide as you can open it today, because I'm going to go into some really important concepts that's going to take all of this to a different level. So I'll give you a couple of minutes just to get to that space and be aware of and open up the awareness, the ability to take information in, to see it and process it and not reject it. Okay, is everyone ready to go?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Good. Mary Helen, it's good to see your face here again. Yay.
You're muted. We can't hear you, Mary Helen.
I think I'm unmuted now.
There you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we hear you.
All right, so it's taken me a long time to come up with a name for my stimulus gap response process, but I've decided that the name of it is the human process for living. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is this human process for living that is in place nonstop throughout our entire lives. If without this process, we wouldn't be alive. We would be literally unconscious and in a coma or not here at all. So next slide, please.
Okay, working on it. There we go.
Okay. So this is the process that you've seen before, stimulus gap response result. Just to refresh our memories that the stimulus is anything that comes into the purview of our 5 or 6 or 7 senses, however you want to define it, but it's not just external, it's internal as well. Now, this is a new insight for me. It's not just external stimulus, it's internal stimulus. And as soon as it is recognized or processed, by the subconscious, and the gap is really a representation of the subconscious and in our brain and our ability to process what happens in and around us. As soon as the subconscious recognizes, which is boom, in a nanosecond, it predicts a result. Then based on what the predicted result is, there will be a response generated. And based on what the predicted result is, the response is generated by an electrochemical cocktail that gets sent through your body instantaneously. This is a process that is literally going on nonstop. And in the gap, a couple of you made some comments about this in your pre-call forms. In the gap is where the law of attraction happens. And it's in understanding and elevating our capacity in the gap to either indulge in the law of attraction or to watch it zoom by us and miss us and not hit our bus stop. Questions, comments, thoughts. And the gap is about everything that happens in your life. It is not just about the negative stuff. It is about all of the things that happen in your life. So the next slide. Okay, some fundamentals about the gap and about the nature of the subconscious. The subconscious has a negative bias, which means it is constantly looking for, am I safe? What's wrong? What is not correct about this picture? The subconscious is about survival. 75 to 80% about what we think of that happens in the subconscious is a negative bias. It's fear-based. The subconscious consists of a set of neural networks that are created between the ages of 0 and 6. Actually, 0 and 2, they're firmly in place by 6. By the time you're a teenager, it's absolutely in place. But it's important to remember that there is a negative bias. So if you have a negative bias in the subconscious, that means in terms of creating the law of attraction, you have to substantially change what happens in the gap. I'll say that again. If you're going to make the law of attraction, you have to substantially change what is programmed into your subconscious, the normal programming. You have to shift the program from what was intended originally to create survival to create opportunity. Everybody with me? Say amen.
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 I got two. Again, can I have three? I got three.
They're muted, I think.
Amen.
I request, please do not mute. I don't care if there's jackhammers in the background. Don't mute. Mute means you're not engaged. If you want to.
Hell yeah.
Good.
That's me unmuted.
Good.
And unfiltered too, so Sherry.
Yeah.
Without saying, but yeah.
All right, next slide, please. This is really important to understand. In the gap until we're 6, we're in the theta brainwave state. What that means is we are in a mode where we are just taking in information and we are literally building those neural networks. We are just sucking information. We stay in that state. What a magnificent idea that our creator had of putting a brain in us that would stay in that state until we're about 6 years old. After that, it shifts back to the alpha mode and these clues for danger, because we now have all these neural networks in place. It begins in a frantic search all of the time to determine whether we are going to survive or not. Because you have to remember that the essence of the old brain is about survival and the ability that you don't get caught outside of your tribe and alone. By the time you're 35 years old, and I think I shared this with you the last time, 95% of what you do is a repeat of existing neural networks. You've got the life patterns embedded, and you're literally living from your past. Mm-hmm. So if 95% is based on neural networks from the past, and 75 to 80% of those are fear-based. You can see what the nature of your life is going to be like. Nature of life is filled with fears, apprehensions, seeing only those things that the small stick figure can allow us to see. Comments, questions, all this stuff.
Good stuff there, Frank. So that kind of means that I either have to only be dating women that are under 35 because they got healthier neural networks perhaps, or those that have really good neural networks that are over 35 based on their history. So that's really important.
I encourage you to focus on the over 35.
For sure.
The reasons.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Unless they're incredibly.
I'm expecting a lot more stain from you guys than I did get, so thank
Yeah.
you.
Sorry, we didn't find the decision.
Now we're going to get into a little more complicated and take this a little further, a little deeper. Next slide, please.
I have a question.
Sure. Thank you.
So, don't we have, so when we get into a state of meditation, that's when we get theta waves, right? So we can get there, but we have to quiet the fight or flight mechanism.
Fight, flight, or freeze. Yes, and that's where we're heading to on all of this, and we're going to be. That's a beautiful question, and we're heading right towards that, and I'm going to explain to you why and how it's so important. Great question. Now, here's a new insight that I've had, and you can see here that I've changed it from stimulus gap response result to trigger gap response result. This is an important differentiation because stimulus is kind of a neutral word. And for me, when I say the word stimulus, it has this kind of nondescript concept to it. But what happens when we build these neural networks, these life patterns, as soon as we experience it, it is a trigger. Boom. It just automatically unleashes what we are experiencing around us, and will create an automatic response because it predicts the results so quickly that it's unbelievable. So this is about what our life patterns turn into are triggers. And we have triggers that are both fear-based and love-based. And as I've said to you, and based on survival, this whole survival concept, most of the triggers are about what is about us keeping safe. And as soon as the trigger happens, and I'm going to keep repeating this, an electrochemical cocktail rushes through your body. And if you are in a state of stress, you are continuously sending all kinds of chemicals that are harmful to your body, creating toxins inside of your body, and ultimately a poor health will result. Unless you do something to make some shifts or some changes in this. Now, let's take this a step further. Let's go into the next slide. All right, now, we're going to get into some really deep stuff here, okay? This is my acronym for awareness. Most of what we're aware of are things that have, as I've said to you about neural networks and life patterns, are things that have gone on in the past. And when we're operating from the small stick figure, it limits our ability to see possibilities. And I don't care, and I just realized this morning, you can pick up a book that has any title on it that has something to do with human performance, whether it's on meditation, whether it's on the state of flow, whether it's Angela Duckworth talking about grit, Amy Cuddy talking about presence, Tony Robbins talking about wealth, and or whatever else he wants to talk about. They all have to do with the concept of awareness. Every one of them. You read any of these books that are popular now about the great positive effects of habits. Habits are, it's about changing awareness. And and see, it's awareness in two levels. It's awareness in the brain and awareness in the mind. And it's important for us to differentiate between the two. The brain is essentially what it exists between our ears. The gray matter, was it 2 or 3 pounds worth of mushy gray matter there between our ears. The mind is the energy that surrounds our entire body, because all of our body has cells that think and process and generate energy. What happens is that in this trigger gap response result process that keeps going on, and life patterns that get generated, is our body becomes addicted to the chemicals that it is seeing and feeling most often.
Yeah.
Now, when the body becomes addicted to it, the brain, it'll do things to automatically trigger the brain to send it or to do something that will cause that to happen. You know, you're experiencing some sense of flow, and you begin to think, oh God, flow is some sense of flow of cash and money, and oh, that's not who I am, that's not who I am. Boom, and you do something to blow it all. And you get addicted through the going out and spending it, or a diet. The body gets addicted to sugar or whatever else it gets addicted to. And then the mind just goes along because of this power of this addiction. So you have the body addicted to the chemicals, dragging the brain and the mind along in this continuous loop of a repeat of what you've experienced before. So it's important to differentiate between the awareness in the mind and awareness in the brain, and to know the difference between the two. Questions, thoughts, reactions?
Well, this is, really clear about why it's so difficult, as Joe Dispenza says, to break the habit of being ourselves, because of that addictive nature of the neurochemicals that get triggered when we repeat, or something triggers a life pattern that's usually based on fear. And then if we don't go into the gap, we're going to just keep going around and around that cycle, and it's not going to change. But in the gap, when we can remove the distractions and the past thing, get into the breath work and, into those theta waves, then we can touch the world of possibilities, the wave rather than the particle.
Now, all you in your comments about the use of the gap say something about remembering to do it sporadically. So, newsflash for you: unless it's front and center, full-time, 24/7, you're going to have a tough time creating the big stick figure. Because this is you have to change. This goes at Sherry's question. You have to change what goes on in the mind and the brain. And there are specific ways to do that. So I'm going to keep going on this, but if there are any questions or thoughts, and some of this isn't, if I'm not being clear enough so you understand it, please speak up.
Frank, before you move on, could you just touch briefly again on those two differences, brain and mind, and that awareness again, just a real quick.
All right. The brain exists between our ears, and it is essentially and most of what the brain does we aren't even aware of.
So we're talking about physiological functions in the body. Is that what they were and all that stuff? Okay.
It takes care of that and all the other life patterns, all of our other interactions. But most of what it does is invisible below the surface. It's like an iceberg. It just keeps chugging along, you know. But most of what happens is below the surface. And every one of our cells has the ability to think, and there is an electrochemical process going through all of them, and they are all taking in and or receiving energy. So there's this field that is around us that can be measured at 6 feet out. That's the mind.
Great.
It's the mind that is, and what separates humans from everything else in the world is the human is the only animal on the planet that has the ability to observe itself. It's the mind through which we observe ourselves and we process what's going on through the brain.
Great. Thank you, Frank. That's helpful. The field of energy in the mind and the iceberg and below the surface through the brain. Thank you.
So we have to make this shift of what we are aware of so that we can see more possibilities. And we have to know what we want to be aware of. It's not just becoming aware of what's happening, but it's becoming aware of what it is you want to create. Being incredibly aware of what you want to create and the specificity. You know, we're going to talk about this in just a few minutes, how important specificity is. So if we can go to any other questions? Okay. Now, awareness equals, this is what it's heading towards. Awareness equals focus. What do you want to focus on? What do you want to become aware of? This is part of why, you know, mission statement is so important. Mission statement should be, it is where we are focusing our energy. This idea of massively transformative intention, it's about where do you want to focus your energy? What is it that you want to create? And focus is the only thing that will create the law of attraction, which gets at this whole idea of habits again. But it is, if we're going to focus, we have to create a state in which we can exist that opens up the brain to see greater possibilities. And we have to teach ourselves to be able to see all of these possibilities. I'll give you an example of awareness that occurred to me the other night that just kind of blew my mind. And this is just a real simple aspect of it. I was out of town. I was in Des Moines, Iowa. And I went to dinner on Monday night. I just got there. It was late. I had a late dinner. And while I'm driving to dinner, I'm thinking, shit. I'm not going to be able to get my dessert. My dessert is typically a small serving of yogurt with a little bit of fruit on it and a tiny bit of granola. And that satisfies me. It's low in calorie. I love it. And I have it every night when I'm at home. And I'm thinking, I can't have it. But then I realized, wait a second, Frank, what can you do about this? There's got to be some way to change this. Bingo, bango, bongo. I ended up going to the grocery, bought a small container of yogurt, some raspberries, and I brought my granola with me. I was smart enough to think, I'll take my granola. I at least will have the granola if I don't have the yogurt. So I had my dessert that night. Now here's the other interesting part of this. Because of seeing this bigger possibility, I went into a grocery store. I'd never been in there in Des Moines. It's called Hy-Vee, H-I-V-E-E. It is the best grocery store I have ever been in my entire life. The best organized, the best lighting, the easiest to find your way through. Unbelievable. So as a result of that, I had this marvelous experience, and it like lifted my entire energy. And then I had, not only did I have yogurt for dessert, I had enough left over to put in my yogurt in the following morning for breakfast. So it was like, it was the gift that just kept on giving. And then on top of all of that, on the way out, I was so impressed with the grocery store that there was a woman in customer service. And I stopped by because I had to say something about how much I enjoyed being in that store. And she was there working on some papers, and I said, may I interrupt you?" And she looked up, like, "Yeah, go ahead if you want, sucker." And I told her, yeah, how great I thought the store was, and I was from Chicago, and we had all of the best supermarkets supposedly in the world. None of them could touch Hy-Vee. Man, her face lit up, and I just felt so good because of the interaction I had with her. All because I became aware of, yeah, I can do something about this. And it shifted energy in such a huge way, which is still really, really hard for me to believe about what that one little shift caused. So questions, comments. Oh, one other element to this. Unbelievable. I'm walking through the aisles and I spot this coffee mug. And I'm always looking for coffee mug. And it's about 2 times bigger than my normal like, but it is white in orange letters all over it. It says "Believe." And it was $2.99. I cannot. $2 for this magnificent mug. Holy cow.
Frank,
Yes.
2 words for your experience.
Pardon me?
2 words for your experience.
Believe.
Retail therapy.
Retail therapy.
You're right.
Just saying.
You're right. I absolutely agree with you.
I love that. And to me that is absolutely the law of attraction. When all these wonderful things show up and you're paying attention, so you notice it all and you get joy from everything, and they're little things that somebody else would look at you and think, well, what's the big deal? But you're completely enthralled. So I get it. I love those outings and days, and it's the law of attraction working in harmony, I think.
Yeah, and the really cool thing about it, that grocery store has been there a long time, but it came into your experience when you had the expanded awareness and decided to do something about needing that dessert. And bingo, there you go. You get the finest grocery store on the planet.
Yeah. And here's building on what you just said, Maggie, is that I've been going to Des Moines for 13 years. Here's the other part of it. Hy-Vee is a major customer of my client there. Holy cow. All right, next slide. All right, so this continuous awareness in terms of, we need to be aware of things that deal with ourselves and that deal with others. And here are some things that I'm suggesting we need to be aware of. What are your life patterns? And what are the triggers that go along with that? Sonia, in hers, you talked about some triggers. I create bigger gaps in space, constantly moving through feelings of I don't feel like it, I'm nervous, I don't have time, I'm overwhelmed. So those are triggers that occur that we need to be aware of when they go off. And as I've said to you multiple times, most of them are contained in words that you use to describe what you're experiencing in and around you. I went to Des Moines to do some extensive coaching work with one vice president there who has a huge heart, but has a tough capacity seeing and experiencing what other people are feeling and or thinking. And we were talking about this whole concept that I'm sharing with you now, and I'd given him some feedback on his inability to be empathic and to understand what others. And we were talking about his recent marriage, and I was in their home, and he was talking about where he wanted to live and where he was going to live. And he said very directly, and in 5 years, I am going to live someplace where the sun is shining.
I.
Exactly, Maggie. I. And I pointed it out to him, and man, oh man, he didn't even know he said it.
Wow.
And I know he loves this young lady immensely. I mean, his whole face and demeanor changes anytime he talks to her, which led to an interesting discussion then about that whole idea. But there are triggers there that I encourage you to identify. All right, and if this doesn't turn into a paper and pencil exercise for you, all this was an interesting experiment for you today. You need to be
Nice
aware,
choice, Sharon.
you need
This,
to, you need to be aware of what you want and what you don't want in your life. What is it that you don't want in people, places, and things that you don't want? People, places, and things that you do want in your life. To get really, really clear about them. And you need to be incredibly aware of your mission statement. A mission statement needs to be a short, simple sentence, and some of you haven't gotten it down to a short, simple sentence yet that can be repeated by a 12-year, can be understood by a 12-year-old. You repeat it at gunpoint, and there's energy that goes through you. This is at the core of what you want to program into the gap, into the awareness, into the subconscious. I had that ringtone once upon a time.
I still have that one, yeah.
It doesn't bother me. I'd rather have you all here participating so you can all feel the energy of each other. Let's not shut ourselves off from the energy of each other. When you mute, you shut yourself off from the energy. And if when we are really desirous of gaining information, just the same way when you're meditating, stuff that goes on extraneously doesn't bother you.
True.
Now, here is a key element here, this massively transformative intention. I have not done a good job of explaining this. What I know about mission statements, what I've learned about them, and has been confirmed multiple times, mission statements will occur when there is a passion behind it that will drive it forward. Then there's something that you really want to do that you're passionate about. Massively transformative intentions need to be projects where there's some special outcome that you can touch, feel, and see or experience. It is not a vague statement, a concept. It is something specific. I want to be the world's greatest seminar leader, and here's what I'm going to be a seminar leader on, and this ties right into my mission statement. I want to build the most successful, engaged, developed network that NECAN has ever seen, because I really want to transform people's lives. I want to be the world's best speaker on this concept of wellness and sleep and creating your life so that this message touches the hearts of people, and I'm going to create this and I'm going to make it happen. I am going to build the most successful not-for-profit organization that has ever existed, that engages people and enables us to fund in an unlimited way the needy and those who have help in whatever way I choose to focus. Does that bring more clarity to this?
It
Yes,
certainly
thank you.
does.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so, Frank.
Clarity means specificity. In my 5 C's, clarity is number 1. And this is what we're getting at. This is about creating an exceptional life. Do you guys have nice lives? Yes, I know that. I know that if you didn't talk to me ever, you didn't hear any of this stuff, you would still have a great life. Would you have an exceptional life and know that you left it all in the field when that last breath occurs? Probably not. Because most of us don't. There's a very small percentage of people that get to experience that. And I know that it's possible for all of us if we're willing to do the work. And thinking and specificity is some of the toughest work that we do. Comments?
well, where do I begin? I have lots of thoughts rolling around. I had a beautiful hour this morning. I'm doing meditative spiritual work for an hour every morning, and I go someplace very special in my heart when I'm doing this. And the reflection that I read talked about this searching, looking, some of the stuff that you're talking about right now. And I read this this reflection to Maggie when I was up there Um, I think so much of my life has been about being in the search for all those things, somehow that it's someplace else and that I have to be better in order for these things to come. And if I keep working on myself and like patterns and triggers, somehow I'll find this magic answer. Well, that's always going to be about searching, and it's that search is outside myself because I haven't loved the pilgrim that's inside of me. And that's you know, to read, you know, the people wandering in the desert and trying to follow Moses, and there always has been this search going on. And I think most of us, at least I know for myself, it's been about being a tourist in my search rather than being a pilgrim. And being a pilgrim means that I have to stop, be still, and literally follow a path that is nowhere else but inside of me. It's in my heart. It's the path that I'm on, and it's messy in there. And who says that the divine ever said that be with us, we had to have a clean house? No, we just need to be in our heart, and it's in that place. So his traditions have always said about trying to be better or be this. No, it's about being messy. It's about being with the prostitute, being with the beggar, being with whatever. And when I'm still and quiet, it's like there's this peace and this joy that fills me. And yesterday I had this, you know, the whole day went sideways because Mr. P was quote unquote sick. I'm not entirely sure that he really is. So I had this very joyous day, Meg. You'll appreciate this. Ironing. I thought, okay, well, I'll get ready for Thanksgiving. I'll iron tablecloths and napkins and do this, and do all that busy work. And it was just this most amazing, peaceful day of just being. And I don't have to search. I don't have to analyze. You know, people go to big workshops looking for somebody else to help figure out the way when it's right there inside of us.
Lovely spoken.
You're absolutely right, Mary Ellen. It is inside of us, and this is what this whole awareness is about. It's about being aware of what's inside of us. And that's, let's go to the next slide, please. Thank you, Mary Ellen. But in terms of awareness in others, you know, be aware of what do you want from those around you? How much do you want to care about them? And this isn't just an idle thought. Is, you know, what do you really want from those around you, and how much do you really care about them? And I'd encourage you to write some stuff about that and to think about that.
So Frank, that should say from rather than for those around you?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, both.
And the second one here is, what do you see as possible for others? Now this is a difficult one. This goes right back to neural networks, life patterns, survival instincts. Our first thoughts when we see other people is, can I trust this person? That is natural. Am I safe with this person? You know what? There's research on this about sales. The first question someone asks themselves in a sales process is, can I trust you? Well, we're always in a sales process anytime we meet somebody. Based on survival instincts, we always want to know, because if you weren't safe and you got extricated from your tribe and you were put outside of the tribal area, you had a low probability of making it. So seeing what's possible versus seeing what's wrong with someone is a dramatic shift, and is harder than I had imagined until I realized, oh, this is what's really going on. And then you take that with number 3. How can you help them reach their possibilities? And one thing you can't say to somebody when you're talking about how can you reach your possibilities is to say to them, well, you shouldn't feel that way. Because every time you say you shouldn't feel that way, what you're saying is, you know, ignore all the stuff that's in your brain and pay attention to me. Well, fat chance of that happening. And then what are the fears? And you always know what the fears are in the people around you, what's holding them in place and keeping them from reaching their big stick figure. And I put this last one in here for you. What do you see as possible for the organization, for Amway or not-for-profit or whatever you're engaged in? What's possible for it? So I'm encouraging you to become a lot more conscious of and determined about what you allow into your life. Any questions?
That's a beautiful shift, Frank, because, you know, I ride transit here, and last night I was going to a meeting, and I got on the train, and I sat down beside this beautiful young man, and I always say hello and, you know, open a conversation if possible. And it was more or less just a sharing of energy rather, I mean, there wasn't any real magical content to the conversation other than what does he do and how does he like it and that sort of thing. But I felt this connection, this heart connection that doesn't need any words. And I left that train feeling better. And I'm imagining he did too, just because of that connection, the smile, the conversation.
Yeah.
Just because of the energy you allowed yourself to create, just because of what you sent through your body in terms of electrochemicals, you have a strong determination to feel a sense of love with everyone you interact with.
True.
That's in that field. That's in the mind. That's that 6 foot around you that other people can feel and experience. That's the law of attraction. That's creating the energy that you want to have and you want others to be a part of, that want to touch. The promise of network marketing is continuous. So whatever the network marketing company is, you're safe, you're at home, you're in a place where you'll be recognized. Well, that the promise is difficult to make true because of the negative bias and what happens in our subconscious. And the fact that most people aren't functioning at their highest possible level that allows them to generate the energy that draws people forward. Next slide, please. So this is about you becoming aware of what triggers do you want to be aware of, both internally and externally, both emotionally and physically and emotionally and spiritually. And I'd encourage you to make a list of this. Triggers that are challenges for you and triggers that you want to be there. Triggers that cause you to be, you know, like now, a trigger for me is, a positive one is my office, because I had it painted and I've got it decorated exactly the way I want. So it creates energy for me when I walk in. You know, this trigger that I'm fighting with now is trigger of what does food represent to me? and I am feeling so great about my current weight and my physical condition, and I purposefully am looking in the mirror to create the trigger of how good this feels. And I want to make sure that I just keep telling myself that so that I won't slip back into the bad habits. But you can identify the triggers. And you know, again, going back to Sonia's comments here, those were all triggers. I don't feel like it. Anytime, you know, what do you want to feel like? What's the trigger that you do want to feel like? Now I'm going to take this then a step further. So we'll go to the next slide, please. Let's talk about meditation and mindfulness. Now, here's some interesting thoughts for you. And this really is some deep stuff to get your arms around. Meditation is where you, focus on slowing the brain down to operate at the theta level if you can get there. It takes a while to build yourself to the ability to get there. And you are engaging your mind to observe what's happening in your brain. Just think of this again. In any meditation, meditation talks about the observer. The observer is the mind. The observer is the energy that surrounds you. So meditation is, about this ability to have the mind observe what the brain is doing. Now, this has a huge impact on what's possible for meditation. Meditation, Mary Helen, as you're experiencing, all of the research, and there's a ton of it coming out, and it's going in corporate America, it's going everywhere about the ability to meditate. And as I think I told you guys before, I encourage you to meditate every day, 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening, or at least once 5 minutes. And if you want to send me a text saying you did it and what you felt as a result of it, you evaluate it just so you become aware of what you're experiencing. It's about awareness as well. I encourage you to do it. Because what you're teaching yourself to do is to get your mind and your brain to work together to create what you want. And in your meditation, you can meditate on anything. You can meditate on any question you want to ask yourself. How will I interact in the group meeting today? And just sit and be quiet and see what you hear and feel. How can I best grow my business? Sit and meditate on how you want to feel. How can I interact most effectively with my spouse or with the people around me? What can I do to develop the people in my network? What can I do to generate more funding for my non-for-profit? And sit and listen. What you're teaching the mind to do is because you've slowed the brain down and it's not on this fight, flight, or freeze process right now. It's in a learning mode. You can take in and you can hear and feel new information, and you get in touch with the field, and the field, all information is available in the field, and meditation taps you into the field.
Frank, what's the difference between the heart and the mind? Because you talk about heart-brain coherence, right? So is it similar? Because to me, when I'm in that coherence, the heart is not just the pumping organ. It's not that at all. It's the ability to tap into possibilities and into the field.
Well, when you get into coherence, you are slowing down all of the rhythms in the body and the way energy is flowing through it, which enables the mind to operate at a higher level. The heart has its own thinking process, its own brain as well. The heart is part of the mind.
But the mind is beyond that, is what you're saying?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's this energy that surrounds our entire body, that's generated by all of the things that are going on inside of us and all of the trillions of cells that make up our body. That all process information. Is there such a thing as a gut feel? Yes, there is such a thing as a gut feel. But meditation, you can meditate on all of these things that are triggers, positive and negative ones, love-based ones and fear-based ones.
Frank, question within this or comment within this, that sometimes I use the reference to reflection for some people, that some people have an issue with meditation or they don't like it, but they can reflect easier. What's your feeling about that? Reflection and meditation, to me, sometimes I think can be swapped over and they're synonymous.
Whatever the word is that you need to use to allow yourself to get to that space where you can relax.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why people have a difficult time, see, I'll go back to this idea that the brain gets hijacked by the body's addiction to chemicals. And when we attempt to sit down and be quiet, the body is reared up. It's full of cortisone and adrenaline and is on high alert because of stress. Once people say, well, I can't meditate. Well, can you watch your breath for a minute? Sure. Okay, you meditate. You just meditate for a minute. And we have this idea that you have to meditate just like exercise. You have to exercise for an hour, it doesn't count. No, exercise for 5 minutes counts. Movement counts. Do it. But it make it a frequent practice in your life to elevate your ability to be aware in all situations, because this is what you're practicing. You're tuning your body and your mind so that they function in a way that you can see possibilities that others can't see. I can see the fact that there is a grocery store across the street where I can get the yogurt. Oh, by the way, I have a refrigerator in my hotel too. Holy cow. And it's a Hampton Inn, so I can go back and get a bowl and a spoon. So I can.
I have a question.
Yes.
This is Anita's wanting clarity. So when I know I've known this from a long time from my own experience, that memories can get locked into the body, parts of the body.
Absolutely. It's
often,
energy,
with a trauma.
Yep, energy gets stuck there.
Right. So is that the mind or is that the brain? Is that a function of the brain or is that a function of the mind? Or is it both?
I would say it's a function of both. And
Okay.
it's about the, in with massage and chiropractor and all kinds of ways, with all of the magnets you have, it's about releasing energy. It's about energy.
It's about what?
It's about releasing energy. Energy gets stuck.
Right. Right.
And all of this is about the flow of energy and allowing it to go through your body. When energy gets stuck, illness will occur. Our bodies were designed to have it flow through it automatically in a wellness way. So this is one element of this whole idea of elevating what's happening in the gap. So you can do it with your meditation. You can meditate on anything, any trigger that you want to get insights on either making it happen. You can meditate on, how will it feel when I'm in front of a crowd and they are mesmerized by the concepts that I'm discussing. And you can allow yourself to just feel that, knowing that you are in front of the crowd, and you can meditate on that. Meditation is another form of rehearsal, as is, next slide. Smile exercise. Smile exercise is literally a rehearsal. You get to rehearse what it is you want to happen in response to a trigger. Remember the smile exercise. You start feeling get the smile on your face, feeling the energy, then you visualize, you see yourself in a situation, a specific situation. Now you can make that specific situation a love-based or a fear-based trigger. You can see yourself with a group of people that are just magnificent and wonderful, and they're eating up every word and you responding to them. You can see yourself in a situation where you're being criticized and condemned, and you want to maintain your sense of balance and respond appropriately from a place of love. You can see yourself, on a transit car, saying hi to someone, and they just look the other way and say nothing, and you still say, glad to see you today. Glad you're here. Nice coat you have on. And not say, that idiot, which is my typical response for that. I get really upset when people don't. There's two people on the street, and there's nobody else for a mile around, and they look the other way when they walk past you, even though you say hi. Are you? If there is a God, he should strike you down right now. So the smile exercise is an incredible opportunity to rehearse. Now, I believe you need to do the smile exercise. Now, my thought is it's 100 times a day. Because what you want to do is to create new neural networks. Neurons that fire together, wire together. When they wire together, they become neural networks, and they dictate the type of behavior. So it's already heavily programmed in there, and if you're over 35 years old, you are fighting against all of these neural networks that keep you stuck in the small stick figure. And it's a natural negative bias that has caused that to occur. So you can do this smile exercise for all kinds of things. And I encourage you to create whatever you want to create. I've been using it in any situation I go into. I did a smile exercise before I started this feedback session about how I wanted it to go. I did a meditation before I started it in the morning about how I wanted it to go. I did a smile exercise today on this presentation today. I did a meditation at about 9:30 my time this morning on what I wanted to do today and how I wanted to feel. And allowed this information to just seep into me. There should be one more. So is there one more slide?
No.
That's it.
That's it.
I missed the last slide. That took longer than I wanted it to, but not as long as it could have.
Thanks for the extra time.
So what questions do you have? What coaching would you like to have? We're right at 1 hour right now. We can stop, but I'll certainly answer any questions. What I believe is I've given you a more in-depth description of the stuff we've talked about and specifics about meditation and the smile exercise to elevate. Now, both of these need to be combined with specific actions. Now, here's the link. The specific actions go back to your mission statement. And the mission statement, if it's powered by a massively transformative intention, you are working on a project, doing all of these things around which you want triggers to occur and to feel the energy that causes the result of you happening, making that happen. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes, indeed. I'm looking forward to reviewing my notes and as well.
Well, and you can listen to the recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love I mean, I have to say that I've heard you talk about this smile exercise for perhaps a decade or more. I don't know, but I would say probably that long. You'd have to know when you came up with this. But it's so cool to think about that it's a combination of, because if you truly smile, it's positive. So it's having that conscious positive energy coupled with an exercise of visualizing something that's happening. So you're, it's that feeling, and if you do it with an action of seeing yourself in action, then you're coupling that some sort of an activity or an action that you want to take. For me, a lot of times it's me seeing myself doing a smile exercise and seeing myself speaking on, to a group of people, like on a stage.
Yeah.
And that is more palpable than it would be doing either of those separately. It's that combination that supercharges it.
Does. Peacefully supercharge it. And Maggie, on the inner balance, you'll get a smile on your face and watch how long you can keep that sucker in green.
Mm-hmm.
You get a smile on your face and think about this concept of love, and watch how that thing just, your coherence goes right through the roof.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next level.
Coherence is that's the term related to the heart math
Yes.
Yeah.
device. Okay.
Getting your brain and your heart in sync. So that's in other words, it's shifting yourself into a theta state.
I'm gonna have to put that on my budget for 2019.
Ask for it for Christmas or Hanukkah.
I could. You're right. I could. Hey, for my birthday, I'm getting big birthday gifts this year. Big.
Yeah, big 6-0, right?
Big. Yeah,
No gift under $60, please.
that's right. Damn it.
Add a couple zeros to that.
I don't know. I think we should add a 0.
There you go. Now you're talking.
All right. So, any questions on this?
Frank, I was just listening to either Greg Braden or Joe Dispenza talk about an experiment that a researcher did where she took for 5 days, she took, I forget how many men in their 60s and 70s away from their normal, distractions. And everything around them was to remind them of 22 years prior, right? The music, the surroundings, they didn't have their cell phones, no contact with the outside world. And I was absolutely fascinated by the results, in terms of everything physiological with these men, including their fingers grew longer and their toes grew longer. How does that, I didn't get that part. Like, how do your fingers get longer when you're younger?
It's all about the energy and the way it flows through you. And it's about eliminating toxins, and your body shrinks as you get older. Your body shrinks because of all the toxins and the lack of movement that you have with it. But it was Dispenza that did that, that talked about that.
Yeah, so I wish I'd been measuring my fingers.
So I have a challenge for you folks. I'm going to challenge each of you to organize a class of at least 5 people that you can get to attend. Your expert network marketers. I'm asking you to network market for me. For each of you to get 5 people to come to this class at $50 a piece for an hour.
Say that again, Frank. You kind of faded out there.
Interesting. I have a request. Shameless plug, shameless marketing.
Okay.
I believe in this stuff, and I'm asking each of you who are network marketers, who have networks of your own, that I know people need this, that you organize a class in which you participate. It'll be you plus 5 other people participating in this class for 1 hour. $50 a piece.
Canadian, right?
Canadian, US, or whatever, Australian dollars, that'll be fine too.
Great.
When will this be? It'll be online, obviously, Frank. Do you have an idea of when?
Or you're talking about a live call?
No, I'm talking about you guys each setting up a separate call.
A live call, yeah.
Live call, yeah.
Yeah, like a Zoom, right?
You set it up, and I'll be there.
Oh, you'll come in for each of us with 5 people. I see. Got it.
Yeah.
I'll do it, but I'll do it in January.
Fine with me.
Yahoo! Thank you.
Way to commit.
Although maybe I should do it in December.
Yeah.
Get people.
Get them ready
That's
for
lined
the
up.
meeting.
So what's the call named, Frank?
Human process for living.
Oh, so you're going to go through this process with whatever, with people in our network to explain this process. Okay. Process.
Can you do it in an hour? Because I think it's more than an hour, especially with the fact, we did it in an hour and we already are familiar with this stuff, with a lot of the concepts. I feel like it almost needs to be a setup call, to set up some base and then go into this.
I'll be glad to work out the details with each of you. An hour and a half would be good. It'd be a 90-minute call, or it could be a 30-minute front end and then an hour call. Either way, the cost is the same.
Okay. All right.
That's a great idea. Good. Thank you. Marvelous. Now, just so you know, again, I had to overcome a lot of fears to do what I just did.
Shameless self-promotion, that part?
That part. In how to say it, to word it, to feel about it. And I thank you for your response. But just, and it's not about me bragging, but I just want you to know that you're watching someone deal with their own level of awareness and challenges. That it's not easy.
Yay, Frank!
Way to go. It's great.
This is a great example, Frank, of your massively transformative intention, right?
Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
Okay, this is silly, but I just figured something out that's amazing. I can put can y'all see me? You can't see me. I just figured out how to put my phone. It's like always driving me crazy because I don't want to hold it. So it's resting between the two knobs, between the turning on the radio knobs. And I feel like I have like a little TV set here. I needed to share. Sorry.
That's cool.
You know, they have these devices. They cost under $20 that you can.
I don't know where to put it, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I had it. It worked in my old car.
It goes right in the vent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but then I have to cover up my the phone back, and I don't like doing that. That's the problem.
Oh, okay.
But anyhow, it's
If you
getting its
caught doing
balance.
it any other way here, you get a big fat ticket. So I like.
Oh
that.
yeah, we can't touch the phone. We touch the phone, and the cop catches you. Bang bang. They'll haul me to jail.
Really? Boy, I'm glad I don't live in the United States.
They want. Hey.
Hey.
Thank you
Okay,
guys very
Dad.
much. Thank you, Frank. I have an
Okay.
appointment. I got to go. So you guys have a great
Good to
one.
see you, Greg. See you Monday.
Bye.
Hey everybody, I'm gonna be around for maybe a few days, Monday, Tuesday, and then I'm exit stage left. And I might not be on. I'm not sure about next week. It's very iffy. I've got family in, and it's big Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I am gone. I'm not doing this Thursday or Friday for sure.
Right, got it. You guys have a big American Thanksgiving. So, Sherry, do you want to chat this morning, or are you tied up?
No, I can chat.
Okay.
Did we say goodbye to Frank?
He said goodbye to us because he's gone.
Oh, okay.
Whoa, bad manners we have. We can all send him a note saying thank you or we love you or whatever. That was great.
Do we have a form that we're supposed to send him still?
After the call, there is one. I just never use it. So
I never do the post call.
I'm a bad student.
Okay, well, I don't have time today to really respond to this. So if nobody else is doing it, I'm not going to.